Hi, Terry. How are you?
I am so good. Great to be here with you.
I'm so excited and thank you so much. Terry and I, in our time working together, we're always navigating these time zones because we are full 12 hours difference. So I'm grateful to
Exactly.
you.
And I'm so grateful for you too.
But I also love your dedication. You are like on every single call. You don't care if you're in bed or whatever you're doing, you're just always there. And it really, your dedication shows.
Oh, I wouldn't miss it for the world. Honestly, when you're going into something that is so life-changing, you'd have to be crazy to miss out on something like that.
I agree with you. So, Terry, today we're going to be chatting about Terry's experience in feminine magic and money and Terri Messenger. And before we do that, Terry, could you share with everyone because you have such a cool business and something I love too, you would joke, what did you call yourself in the beginning of FMM? The Nana of the group.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. But I felt like, one of the youngsters by the time I came out. I thought, did I really say
I know.
that?
I was like, what is she talking about? It cracked me up. But I also loved it from a perspective. Well, one, how I don't believe in age. And like, I feel so ageless. Like, I always just feel like a wild heart with a young soul. And, it's just ridiculous. But because we've been so conditioned around it, I think we tell a lot of stories. And it doesn't really matter how old you are. People have stories about their age at 30, 40, 50. Like, it happens everywhere. So it cracked me up that you said that. I was like, is she crazy? But I also love that you aren't playing with like this linear concept of age. It's very much not, like, just in kind of your whole presentation to life and your just continued willingness to just keep learning and going deeper no matter what, and never being like, oh, it's too late, I'm past 35. Like, come on.
Oh my gosh, I'd be in big trouble if that was the case.
Me too.
Oh, absolutely. Well, really one of the practices that I believe is about timeless, ageless, and timeless mind and body, which
Yeah.
is probably where everything began. So I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, and also I do a lot of training with neuro-linguistic programming. And, when you're a hypnotherapist, people come to you because they want to lose weight. People come to you because they want to stop addiction. They want to stop the depression. They want to quit the trauma. And, the first signature program that I created was definitely around the body. So ageless mind, timeless body. And, even though NLP is really my grassroots, that's where it all began in 2006 after the collapse of my first marriage. And I totally reinvented myself from the ground up.
I love that. And this is what happens to a lot of us. Like, we're like been going along to get along, and then you find yourself needing to remake yourself, well, from a place of desire. And so if you throw an age wrench in there, good luck.
Absolutely, absolutely. So no, I don't believe in age, although I know that, when you're in this world now today, I mean, really, we're all so much younger than 50 years ago anyway.
Oh, absolutely. I'm 39. What does it even mean? In so many ways, I feel like my life is just beginning, or like this version of my life where I'm so grounded, so settled, like in a good way, but also there's so many exciting things ahead. Where there was a previous version, era where 39 would have been like, you have 3 kids, like, you know what I mean? You're like practically in retirement.
Exactly,
Or
exactly.
even earlier than that, dead.
Well, that's right. It's just the, way our world has changed and the way everything is. But yeah, I guess my gift is really activating people's zone of genius.
Mhm.
And, I came across that, Jocelyn, when I first met with neuro-linguistic programming, because I felt that I'd lost my identity. And I felt actually, now that we speak about age, that life began at 40. For me, that was true story. Life literally began when I was 40. My whole world changed. I found, my love, my marriage that I went on to. I completely reinvented myself. But really what I was doing is I was bringing out the person that I was born to be without all of the dense energy that had squashed me for most of my life through a lot of trauma and through a lot of crisis and through so much self-doubt.
100%. Isn't this what we're here for? To
Mm-hmm.
help other people do the same. So thank you so much for sharing that bit. And can we chat about kind of what, we've been working together for a while now. You joined Feminine Magic and Money. And then obviously right now you're in Limitless, which has been amazing. And can we, because it seems like so many lifetimes ago, because so much has happened since you joined FMM, for the last round, kind of what was going on with you inside of, FMM is a very vast container. So it really very much covers our relationship to money, relationship to self, a relationship to others, to the divine, to men or partners, to life. It's kind of everything. So could you give an overall of what was going on with you in those different areas before you joined and what brought you in?
Well, it was almost like the 5 key areas of my life that I go on and on about in my business today had collapsed, literally collapsed. I had a shocking year in 2021. I lost 3 people in my family. And basically a house of ours that we had been renting out had been completely trashed by the tenants, and it happened very quickly, so we didn't even have time to do anything. So we were in trouble financially, like with this house. We were also moving house. So at Christmas of 2021 would have been the worst Christmas of my life. And a day, it was like the night of the dark soul. It was so bad. I was like having this literal emotional breakdown, like everything had just hit me. But I think I'd been operating in so much of my masculine energy, which, even though I'm a very feminine person, as you would know, Jocelyn, I was always that person who thought that I had to work hard. And I do work hard. And I think people do, need to work hard when they're, succeeding and everything. However, there was a fine line. And, what had happened was I had just come to the end of my tether. I'd had that complete hit the wall experience. But what happens when you hit rock bottom? There's
You're
only
ready
one
to
way out to
rise.
go.
Yeah. And do
Exactly.
you mean like, for the specifics that you desire to share, was this like kind of around money, around love? Like what areas, just to help people
Yes,
understand?
absolutely. Yeah. So the house, the collapse of that property was a financial loss, definitely huge. Like, the house was trashed, the insurance didn't want to talk to us, all of the rest of it. And then, of course, when you're stressed, your resistance, your immunity goes down. So I was feeling exhausted. That was affecting my health. And of course, what's the old saying? When money runs low, love flies out the window. And well, they say this, that my father always said that. And I think with all of the stress, and all of a sudden it was like my masculine side of me that was in full swing. And I think the more stressed I became, the more I was immersed into that masculine energy. And it seemed like the more masculine energy I was working in, like push, 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 it seemed like it was pushing my husband into the feminine energy, which was truly weird, like a total mirror, but opposite. And so he was operating in all this feminine energy, just about driving me crazy. And I was operating in my masculine. So by the time January had swung around of 2022, I was planning my exit, and we just moved into this new, beautiful home. And I'd sat down and I thought, you know what, this is it. You know, I'm going to be Elizabeth Taylor. You know, this is going to be my second divorce. And so basically she got married 3 times, didn't she? But you know what I mean. But so my marriage was on the rocks. We were suffering. I was literally thinking about how we could do this, because you know, my natural personality is I like to keep the peace. I had a fairly amicable breakup with my first marriage, but there was a lot that went into that. But for this one, so there was that whole, the financial, there was the love, there was the exhaustion, there was the health. So all of those keys that I teach on, preach on, and it's almost like the universe sent it to me so I could have my next uprise. And that's when, I don't know, you popped up, Jocelyn. I already had met you. I knew you from an original program we were both in, and you totally blew my mind by the way you demonstrated how fast you could move at literally the speed of light in as a coach in the coaching field. And I watched that. And as a person who specializes in zones of genius, I could see you had a very specific gift in money and strategy. And I just thought, this girl, this woman, she's just got it. And you kept on coming up, you kept on appearing. And then I just started to pay a lot of attention to you. I wasn't commenting or liking anything. I was just watching you. So I was your secret admirer for what seemed like a long time, because I was going through so much turmoil. I was over the whole business programs that I had been doing, to be honest with you. I'd had a gut full of it. The launching method, doing this, doing that. And then I recognized that you do the energy, you do the frequency, but then this whole feminine magic money was exactly what I needed, because, you know, I approached you, and I remember I was going on a road trip with my husband, and I think I mentioned to you that we nearly hit a kangaroo.
Yes, you did. I remember.
And so we were talking with one another, and I was making that decision. And I decided that, yes, this was what I wanted to do. It was going to be, because you've got a few programs running, and this was something a little bit different, because it was more on the feminine, the magic, the money. So it was, you know, a container where there was going to be a lot of emphasis on our grassroots and, you know, where we came from, and, you know, and there was just so much that went into that program, and womb healing and grounding. And it was exactly what I needed, literally. So it was like a recipe sent from the heavens, and I jumped in. But the moment that I said yes to you, and I am a firm believer in this, the moment that the money activated from me to you, everything seemed to change.
I love that. So many people, and you were already you're like, I hit a financial rock bottom, your version of, and you still were like, okay, Jocelyn, I'm paying in full, you know, and you just went anyway. You're like, this is what's
Mhm.
required of me. And I remember you also told me you thought your marriage was going to end, like
Oh,
even
yeah.
before we started.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. 100%. And I am a firm believer that even when you haven't got the money, or even when money might be running low, if you can't invest in yourself, you can't invest in anything.
No, like we are our greatest asset. If you're not investing in yourself, what the hell are you doing with your money?
Exactly. You know, I think
Everything else
people,
is extra. Like we have to start with
Mm.
ourselves, you know?
Well, that's what we've got. That's everything that we are. So I just went 2 feet in a heartbeat, boom, into it. And I knew, I mean, there was that waiting time, but in that waiting time, things began to shift. And I am a firm believer in this, the power of intention. The moment that the container accepted me, you and myself had decided this is what was going to happen, I felt an elevation. I began working on myself even before I came into your container. But then when I came in to your space, I realized that you were the version of me that I truly wanted to be, but I had denied.
Right. And you were really, you had a lot of programming because your presentation is very feminine, but you had a lot of programming around the go, 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 go. Right. And it obviously, driven you into the ground. And it's interesting because I think I come across as very forward. Yet, when you really get to like know me, my business, how I flow, it's actually very leaned back, so it's funny how sometimes you can't tell what's going on with people by appearances either.
That's a very interesting point, actually, because, your methodology and what I picked up from you in the very first instance was about the feminine energy and really just embracing and embodying, that feminine and being and grounding into it. And yet, yeah, it's interesting that you say, because you are very forward, very, strong communicator and assertive. However, your way of life is like a queen.
Yeah. That's
And
what
I
I'm here
began
for.
that.
Because I'm like, I don't want to be tired. I don't want to be stressed out. I don't want to be under resourced. Like you said, I'm like, I'm the queen. You get to be the queen. Like, let's do this. Why else are we living?
That's exactly right.
If
And I
we're
love
gonna
that.
if we're gonna be on planet Earth with all these earthly pleasures, don't we want to enjoy them? you know?
Absolutely. That's exactly right. And it's like, I felt like you gave me permission.
Yeah.
It was like the permission slip to say, Terri, it's okay to be you. Because when I first began personal development, I mean, my success had really taken off the moment I pretty much hit the ground running in 2006, but that was in clinic, which is very different to the online space.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came into the online space, that was the big eye opener, because you had to niche down. This is what they teach you. You've got to post 5 times a day. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. And, all the programs that teach you about all these things that can be
awful.
so overwhelming. And not to mention the, get up at 5 and work out and run around the block and do this. So I was, before I came into your container, like 2021, I was walking around the block with my dog at like 5:30 a.m. in the morning in a bad mood.
Yeah. Because if you're not a morning person, it's not doing anything for you. When really all that matters is just that you were well slept.
Yeah, exactly. I just needed some sleep.
I know. Like maybe it's the opposite.
Yeah,
So I love this. So let's first talk about, you had some incredible money wins. One of them to the tune of $90,000. Yes, ladies, you heard that right. $90,000. And then another at, was it 70,000? The second one, the second time?
Well, actually, it came up by April, by about April 1st. So I'd only been in your container for, I think it was March that I started.
I can't remember if we started in February or March, but it had been a few months, bottom line. Yeah.
So it was 70K. And then by the end of June, it was 150K, another 70K.
Wow.
Yes.
So then where were you at by the time? So we closed. Time moves so fast here. I honestly can't even remember what's going on. Did we finish in August?
I think
Did we finish in August?
Yes. It's just recently closed. So upon closing, 150K easily. And I would say to this point, we would be touching 200K.
And Terri, for where you came from, this doesn't make sense.
Well, exactly.
In a good way. That's what I'm here for. I say this is the container for quantum healing and quantum manifestation. And this is a perfect example of exactly what I mean. To go from stress out about money to calling in $200,000 in a matter of months is this is what's available. And this is I'm like, when people miss out on this, I'm like, are you crazy? Why? And you became happier and more relaxed in the process of, you weren't doing more, you were doing less.
Exactly. And it was manifesting, and it was just, and you could see it, you could feel it. It was just a manifestation process that was happening. And my programs, I've just opened up. Master Key is one of my signature programs, but we're doing a quest on it, so that's I don't do challenges, so it's like a challenge, only it's a quest. And I've got 17 people in that container at the moment.
It's amazing. Is that one of the biggest groups you've had so far?
It really is. Absolutely. Since I've been operating online, definitely. Yes. I used to do those kinds of group in real life. This is really, so much bigger and better. And I feel that possibly the biggest take is that it's the stepping into the feminine energy, and it was all the releasing we did, and the womb healing, and all of just everything that was, that just rolled out of FMM was absolutely what I needed.
I'm so happy to hear it. And before we talk more about your experience inside the container, because you were really dedicated. I think you came to every call. Maybe you missed one. You were really focused.
Yes.
So no big shocker. Here we are. So can you talk about what transformed inside your relationship? Because I think this is beautiful too. Obviously most people come to me for money, yum, but in every single round, there's deepening of existing relationships. People call in partners, engagements, etc. I've seen it. The first round, there was not an engagement. In the past two, there have been. And there's always a real change in how we're relating to the masculine energy around us, whether it be to men, money, both, etc. But it's so incredible to watch, because it always happens with so much ease. It's literally what you do inside, you lay down for most of the experiences in this container. And then you just of course, when I'm coaching you and we're in our Voxer chats, etc., I'm going to tell you that we need to put down boundaries here. We got to do this. We got to do that. Yeah, of course. But it's it's wild to see when you go into a space as magical as this one, what can happen without you doing so much. You aren't talking to your husband about being more in his masculine. Give me a break. That's never going to work,
Yeah, absolutely. With regards to being inside the FMM, I really believe it was a lot to do with the fact that, giving myself that permission to be myself, to let myself be who I am, to have that more relaxed stance, to show up and be authentic. I mean, I am an energetic person naturally, and I've always had that energy, but I think there's a big difference between having that energy where you're kind of pushing and that energy where you're receiving. And for me, it was learning how to receive.
100%. And so then how did your marriage end up shifting? Because it was so funny. I remember when we introduced, we had our first group called Limitless, and you were like, well, I'm here because, you're just talking about things that had happened for you in Feminine Magic and Money. Although Limitless is a business container and FMM is not. And you were like, Jocelyn helped me fall back in love with my husband again. I just can't believe it.
Absolutely.
And I just
Yeah.
loved it. And obviously it cracked me up too. But how did you, what transitioned inside your relationship?
It was the way, when you fall out of love with someone and when your relationship takes a slow downward spiral where you almost feel like it's, beyond anything that you can resurrect, you get to the point, especially like with myself, because I swore I didn't even know I was going to marry again when I got divorced the first time, because it was just, to me, it was just so traumatic to go through that. And so I do take it very seriously. But for me to get to that point in my mind where I was thinking, this is it, and, telling myself that, look, it's going to be okay, and just feeling so almost like there's just no return on this. That's how bad it was. And there was just this moment where I came into myself, and I also practiced something that I preach, but I went through a strategy inside my mind, but I allowed myself to be opened to receiving everything that I had learned in your container. And it's almost as if it changed my heart. Which is huge. It's like my heart changed. And then, to be honest, we live in this huge house. It's so funny because it's like the show Prudence and the Pill. I don't know whether you've ever seen it.
I don't know what that is.
It's a really old show back from the 50s, and they walk down the stairs, the two of them, like a queen and a king, and they say good morning to each other, and but they've come from separate bedrooms, and they walk on the same staircase, and then they sort of walk in different directions, but they come to this big long table where they're literally the only two people in the house, and they're eating like 10 feet away from each other. Well, that's how it was when we first moved here, because I thought, nah, it's finished. He slept in one room, I was in the other room. And this went on for, right up until I came into your container, and literally I told you that we had that conversation on the way onto a holiday. And where we stayed, we had no alternative other than to sleep in the same bed. And we hadn't been sleeping in the same room, just rewinding a little bit, for weeks. Aww. And so, just, it was okay. I thought, this is strange. I don't feel that same feeling towards him. And then slowly, as I was healing myself, this is the strange part of when you do inner healing and really deep work. When you change, your whole world changes.
Yeah. It's
so,
true.
yeah.
It's really the
Mm.
truth.
So it's almost as if, you know, you do all this inner work and you think, oh, everybody else has changed toward me as well. But it's just the way you've shifted your perspective. You know,
Right.
the old stories, you know, they call it codependence. The
Mm-hmm.
codependence that was in our relationship, I felt disappeared, and it was replaced with something a whole lot healthier. And he accepted me, because a lot of times when two people are in a relationship, if one person does a lot of work on themselves, quite often it can leave the other person behind.
Right. I've
Uh,
seen that too.
Yes. And so with ourselves, I mean, my husband's a very intelligent man. So I think he was very grateful, actually, very grateful to you, Jocelyn, because
Oh, thank you.
yeah, no, so our world really changed and turned around. But I really feel it was a long time coming, because 2017 I'd stepped into the online space, and all I was doing was business, 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 programs the whole time. And I think you know, that there is no doubt, there is one thing that I know now to this day, and that is that when you are going into a program, if you want to succeed in your business, you have got to have the frequency, the energy, and the strategy, all three of them.
Preach. I'm like, this is my whole message. We got to do it all.
Yep. And that's the reason I am so grateful that I was called into your container, because I really I needed this huge reset. And yeah, just springboard propelling, and I know it's all up and up now.
It's so true. And so I love that you guys had that coming home together. I mean, this is so meaningful, because imagine if you just walked away from something that actually had space to grow into what it was now, simply by not investing in yourself. And it's not like, obviously, we're not here to salvage toxic relationships, but this wasn't toxic. There was just like this disconnection, you know?
Exactly. And it can, you know, if you don't do something, it can definitely can go toxic.
Yeah.
You know, and it's so important. It's just incredibly important to do the inner work. You've just got to do the inner work if you want to have a good life, because it's like having a rubbish bin and never emptying it otherwise.
I mean, quite literally, it's that simple. And what happens too is a lot of times people think they've been working on themselves, and I can just tell in the frequency in their voice and how they present. I'm like, I don't know what you've been doing, but like, there is more available. Trust me. And it doesn't have to be painful. Like, that's the thing about FMM. And I've heard other clients say it. I'd love to hear your perspective too. It's not like you're needing to go revisit every childhood memory, all this drama. It's like all myself, all the women who lead, etc. You know, I call us all modern day medicine women. The reason I call it quantum healing is because of how quickly it happens. This isn't like therapy where you have to go rehash everything 6,000 times. It's like it just very much works on its own. And then in addition to the healing pieces, I think what's been missing for a lot of people, and you're so energetically attuned, I think you understand this, is like the activation. So it's like, hey, cool, let's like clean out the rubbish bin, like you said, and let's do it quickly. And also, we know in my world, we cover, you know, this lifetime, lineage, trauma, and past life. But then also we want to activate you with new codes, right? It's like turning your cellular DNA on to a new level, etc. It's not just like cleaning out the cup. It's like helping you step into more.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I would love to hear kind of your experience with that, especially being someone who's been deep in the healing world and as a healer yourself, right? You weren't like, oh, I'm all healed. Like, you know, and it's like, it's fun. It's not like what you're used to in FMM.
Yeah, the work is very, very deep. And, you know, our lives, we're like an onion. So we're constantly peeling back the layers. And whilst, you know, there were a lot of triggers that had turned off and there were dramatic changes that I've had, there was so much work. Sometimes we don't know what we don't know. And we
All
have
the time. Yeah.
yeah, and we have blind spots. And I feel that, you know, from what, you know, where I am in my world, I was called to see those blind spots. And when I'm having like that whole breakdown that I had, which never lasts very long in my world anyway, not, you know, now that, you know, when you know that you can have something better, you'll never settle to stay down, you know. And the fact is that the moment that you come into this kind of space where you do the deep inner work, you'll find that there's always other things to unleash. And I believe that I was called to reveal those blind spots within myself, like the masculine parts that, and there'll be continuously things that I know that will improve me. And that's why I always say that our adversity and what we suffer in our lives doesn't have to stay stagnant and stuck. We can release it and then be unleashed into the next level so that we can be that light to the world. So we've got that story, like, you know, you've got your story, and, you know, that can be that next level. And the fact that you say about quantum, that's what I love, because this is the part where people go and see counselors and they can be dealing with something for years and years and never get out of that space that they're in, you know? And yet what we're doing is we're rising up out of our human body of where we are, and we're getting this divine view of our whole world. However, when, you know, we did the DNA activation as well with Phoebe, and that DNA activation, it's not just about healing the wounds that we have that we need healing, but it's about recoding and tuning in as well to all of these different frequencies so that we can totally you know, recode ourselves to rewire at that new DNA activation level. So you're also rewiring and recoding, because if you take something out, of course, it's always nice to put something back in. And they quite often say, if you take something out and you don't put something back in, then if you don't choose to do it, then the universe might choose, you know. So it's good that we can do that work. And yeah, it doesn't have to take a long time. It can happen so fast.
Yes. And this is what I mean about the new frequencies. And on a more like tangible level, you know, I was thinking last night, I'm like, the difference of how I feel just with money is a very tangible example. As a human, okay, cool. I know how to make 6 figures cash a month. I feel that frequency, of course, there's strategy behind me, all the things. We know what I always talk about this stuff. But it's like, but just the frequency, just the feeling is very different than when I was at 30K months. And when you have no familiarity with the higher level frequency, you know what I mean? It's like I'm always say it's like frequency first. And it's like, we do frequency, we do embodiment, we do healing at the same time. Although for FMM, we're not doing business strategy. It's all the like quantum healing, quantum manifestation. But my point being, it's like I had done so much work myself too, right? To be activated in much more expanded frequencies. So you start actually feeling like you're actually vibrating at a much higher level place. And it's not about being in a good mood or not. Like, I think a lot of people confuse this work with like, oh, it's just going to be how you feel when you go for a walk. I'm like, this is not what we're talking about. I'm talking about like when you have the felt experience of living in another paradigm. Like, imagine the felt experience between, wow, I never have any money in my bank. This is a dramatic example, but to help people get it, like, oh, my accounts are always in the negative, to like, oh, I have like $1 million easy at all times. It's a completely different reality. The way you show up in the world, the way that you carry yourself, the way that you think about things, the amount of things you don't think about anymore. Like, it's felt. And this is why, your standards, what you'll say yes to, what you're like, no, I'm good. Your standards change, what you receive changes, how other people respond to you changes. And it all starts with you. And it's like, when we can give you the frequency of what you want, right? So clear out the cup, activate you with the frequency of like what more is available to you. Cause we all want different things, but just like for yourself, like if we're doing a DNA activation, for example, you're not getting like recoded with someone else's DNA. It's like literally the highest vibration of what's available to you for you in this lifetime. And of course, this is a continuous evolution, but you get my point. It's like you start feeling different. Like before I was having 100K cash months, right? Before I was where I am now with this much ease, I felt it first and everything else followed. Ooh, sorry, just knocked my mic. Sorry about that. But anyway, do you get what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yes. Just the whole vibration around the feeling. And what you said too, you mentioned the word, but actually what came to mind is boundaries and the self-love, the self-worth, and how that's interconnected with our money and our spiritual wealth codes. And I never realized that, Jocelyn, that was a huge thing for me, where I would have that problem where I would call money in, but then as fast as I was calling it in, it was also, I was letting it go. And I really am a firm believer now that was around the fact that I didn't have boundaries.
Yeah.
Because I always held a fear that if I set boundaries with people, then I'd be rejected. But what I didn't realize is the exact thing that I was doing or not doing was creating what I didn't want. It was actually causing the rejection in the long run because people didn't know where they stood.
100%. Nobody wins with people pleasing. And we do a lot of boundary work in FMM too, because also we don't, it's great. Yes, of course, to be able to state a boundary as needed. What's even better is when you just embody them in the first place.
Yes.
And it's like, I know this was kind of coming up for you in different circumstances. And I'd love to hear, and it comes up for all of us. This is literally part of deconditioning around being female. What kind of has been your experience in having this aha, seeing how your own like energetic leaks regarding your standards, your boundaries, and just how people in the world interact with you, and how, that was tying to the relationship with money, and also just how you feel. Yeah, there's the tangible relationship with money, but also we do want to feel good as often as possible. And having leaky boundaries is exhausting and you get really anxious.
Yeah, absolutely. And furthermore, by having those boundaries, you're loving yourself more, you're caring about that relationship with the other person. I know that was the first thing that struck me with you, and yet it was the greatest gift, because I needed to hear that from someone else, someone who had firm boundaries, who was a very clear and concise communicator, that was an excellent strategist, and had this feminine container that I could just immerse myself into, and and just feel like I have been on this amazing retreat.
A 5-month retreat.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how it feels. It's incredible in there.
Yeah, it's like I have been on a retreat. That's how it really feels. And you are right. It's not about a good mood either. It's not about, oh, I'm in a good mood today, because I mean, we are emotional human beings, you know, we're
Yeah.
energy in motion. That's what we are. And we do have, and we're going to have those moments where we feel negative, and when we have those, you know, moments of anger or sadness or whatever it is, because that's just how it is in the human realm. But I think the difference is being able to know how to deal with it, and the fact that
Yeah.
embracing it, embodying it, and going, you know what, it's okay. It's okay for me to be angry. It's okay for me to feel this way. And, you know, I'm allowed to. And then really tapping into what it is that, you know, our subconscious has got that is better for us, that it's actually wanting to protect us from, and moving to that next level.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's so important that you say that, because we do a lot of work too. It's like to not have to linger around and what does come up for so long. I'm like, you're these quote unquote episodes that people just go round and round in emotional circles, or I jokingly call it, we go around in the drama for like a month to 3 months.
Mm.
I'm like, what is happening here? Like you learn how to bring energetic speed even to what does come up. This is not to, we are not into bypassing. We're not bypassing grief, bypassing experiences, but like a lot of things that we've been carrying around, they have like far exceeded their what is it? Like their expiration date. Like we got to move on, but we don't know how, you
Mm.
know?
Mm, absolutely. No, definitely not bypassing. In fact,
Yeah,
quite the contrary. Um,
exactly.
you know, facing it and going, okay, you know, this is the awareness. This is what it's all about, and embracing that, and then being able to let it go.
And also learning, because I see this come up a lot. People don't even know the pattern that they're in. It's like I have to reflect back to them the pattern they've been playing out, because they've been playing it out for so long, they don't even realize it's a pattern.
Exactly.
And this is at all income levels. This is nothing to do with how much money you're making. It's none of this. It's literally that we just cannot fully see ourselves. I'm always in healing, always, always, always year round, 100%, in
Yeah.
addition to my business and money containers. And like, for my own coaching, we simply cannot. So you can be the most self-aware person on the planet. You literally just cannot see everything about yourself. And lots of times you're running patterns, even as a high functioning person, you are running patterns that are really sucking the life out of you or slowing down your capacity to manifest and receive. You don't even realize. So then, of course, something happens, and then we can go through and like, navigate that emotional piece. And then it's like helping you learn how to make the choices that put you on a timeline or in a paradigm that you actually want to be in. And this is
Mm,
like one of the huge game changers I feel from being an FMM too, is like having that kind of real-time support to be able to do this.
yep. 100%.
Because for
I
you,
love
right,
it.
it was a lot. I just remember some of the boundary conversations now that you mention it. And so it's like, even under like sometimes you weren't even aware that there was a boundary issue.
Exactly.
How are you supposed to know to work on it if you didn't know it was there? Or like when the situation comes up, you don't always realize, oh, this is a boundary issue. You're just like, I feel weird. I don't know why, and
Exactly.
that's
Do you know,
normal.
yeah, I would say, hitting the nail on the head, this was one of the greatest containers to be able to find all my, and not all of them, but so many blind spots, that I didn't even know about, and go, oh, really? Okay, this is what's happening for me. And just when you think that you'd gotten over something, and then you suddenly realize, hang on a minute, there's another level here. And so that all of those blind spots just being blown open, because the awareness factor is just so powerful.
Yeah. And then you have support around moving differently, which is scary for all of us. But this is why you have the support, the calls, the Voxer chat, etc., So when you're learning to move differently through the world, you have that safety net. And we're so much more likely to take bigger risks and just play a bigger game in life when we know we have the safety net, because we know we're going to be caught. Because there is sometimes this feeling of moving through a new way where you're like, okay, I'm going to jump. And then if you feel like there's something to catch you, like your support, you're like, okay, it's all good. No matter what, I can handle it. When you try to move through the world without that, you don't jump. You just keep playing it safe. Please keep playing it safe, keep playing it safe, and then wonder why your life's never changing.
Exactly. And people can't change. You can't change at the same level that you are. That's what I've found. And so if you want to call in new money, you've got to go to a new level.
Yeah. The end.
Exactly. So for us, for people like you and I to be exceptional in what we're doing, it would be absolute ridiculous. It would be like an athlete wanting to win gold at the Olympic Games and not having a coach.
Terri, you're so psychic. I was literally, I was about to say, when women play this game in business and money, they're like, I invested once, or, oh, I'm good for now, I'll be back later, or whatever the fuck. I don't even know what they're doing because it's so disempowered. They're basically saying they're not worth what they want. But it's literally exactly, it's like, I'm going to be an Olympic athlete, but I'm not going to have a team of coaches. Are you crazy? Oh, but yeah, but I want to make 50K, 30K, 100K months. I'm just going to, and I was coached in high school. Isn't that enough? Do you know what I mean? Because they invested once a year ago. Like, are you kidding me? It's such a joke. It's like hard for me to have compassion around because I just never played that game. And there's a reason you see the results you see over here. And like stories like what Terri is sharing. Terri was like, okay, well, I've been at this for a long time. I want more. I don't care what my age is. I don't care how long I've been in business. I don't care about any of this. All I know is more is available and I want it. So I'm going to keep going,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Insatiable.
Yes.
Insatiable
for the good life, appetite for the good life.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Oh my gosh, Terri, I have loved this conversation so much. You are just such a pleasure to talk to and to listen to.
Oh, thank you so much. And I am so grateful to you. And all I can say is thank God, FMM.
I know. Do you have any words, anything else you want to share around being in the container to anyone who's thinking about it and hasn't pulled the plug yet? Not pulled the plug, made the move.
I believe that how you've set that whole container up is ingenious, because in a way what you've done is you've created all of these different elements of healing for women, and you've called in the right people for all of those different resources that have got, their own gift mix and their own zone of genius. So as a result, what you're getting is you're not just coming into a container and getting one person and then too bad if it didn't work out, but you're getting this whole, like running a car on 4 cylinders. You've got, all these people that you've selected, you've hand chosen, who are going to be the right people. They're going to do the womb healing, that are going to do the ancestral, that are going to do the deep root work where it comes to the hypnotherapy. So you've got all of these elements that, why would a person not want to come into it?
I have no idea. I think it's absolutely insane. And I'm like, and those people tend to still be where they are a year from now, who are like thinking about it and don't. It's crazy. It's like, it is hand selected very intentionally for, where I desire to take you, the women that I bring inside, where I am having them take you. And it's like, it's a highly curated experience for a reason. And the level of intimacy, like you have our real-time Voxer support, Monday through Friday with me, obviously every day with the sisterhood, the content portal. There's so many tools. There's so much. It's like a fully immersive experience, but also not one that like sucks up all your time either. To me, it's like, and I feel like I received this feedback, like it's very like enjoyable to go through.
Yes, that is absolutely another point that I missed, that it's spacious and you're getting so much, but you're not inundated and overwhelmed. So,
Because I hate that.
yeah,
I cannot
me too.
stand that vibe.
Me too. So it's exactly as I would like it. In fact, that's something that I have really prided myself on making sure of in my own containers, that people have that space, that integration. And that's I really did appreciate that.
Yeah. And it's like, I want you guys to have time to not just touch the surface, but to really deeply embody these new ways of living and receiving on the other side, and have practice, like having things come up in your life, bring it to the table. We move you forward in a new way, have time to actually have this healing sink in, have time to actually have the activation sink in. Like it's 5 months for a reason. This is not some like quick hit 4-week healing journey. Like it just doesn't work like that, which is why I don't offer anything like that in the healing space in my world. I'm like, if you're coming in to that with me, then it's different when we're just doing like exclusively business, for example, because yeah, I can help you turn your business around very quickly. Or come into longer space, depending on what you want. But when it's like involving our human on this really, really deep level, I'm like, that takes time. For example, there's no healer that I worked with for 4 weeks and that was it. Like, are you kidding me? Most of the ones who've been in my life, it's been like, and also obviously I am like a completely different person, but I very much believe in kind of like those long-term connections when we're going into that, the going within space.
Mm.
And to give you
Quality
enough
over
time
quantity.
to become a new person who has a new pattern that's serving you at a higher level.
Yes. Yes, that's it. And totally quality. Quality over quantity. That's
Yeah.
what I believe. Not 100 modules with
Oh my
all this
God.
noise going on, but just this very clear space and really delicious healing sessions, and yeah, just fantastic.
Thank you so much, Terri. And obviously, you are a healer yourself with such powerful work that you've offered the world. Could you share about, for anyone who would like to get in touch with you, where to find you, and if there's anything specific that you have coming up that you would like the world to know about?
Okay, well, I would just say, to make it really easy, go to my website, Terri Messenger, how my name is spelt, terrimessenger.com. And I definitely pride myself on the master key, and I believe it is a great way to start for anyone. And those master keys are based on the 5 key system, being the cornerstone of what I believe is important in your life, being your health and energy. That's master key 1. Your rich relationship 2, your wealth through your spiritual self-love 3, your zone of genius, which I'm all about, finding that zone of genius in the world, and 4 and 5 is living your legacy life. And my vision is a legacy 1 million. That's not $1 million, but a legacy 1 million people to impart the master key, which is helping people to transform and also impart and take it out into the world and be part of the legacy.
So beautiful. And I'm obviously going to have your links in show notes. So if you would like to get in touch with Terri, you can just head to episode notes and the links are there. And Terri, thank you so much for taking the time to come onto the podcast today. I feel like this was such a beautiful kind of like behind the scenes and showing what's possible through going through FMM. And then also you just have so much wisdom to share that can't wait for everyone to hear as well.
Oh, thank you so much, Jocelyn. It's been great being here.
So good.